evening to you, and thanks for joining us on UpNorthLive Unscripted at 6:30 on this Tuesday evening. A pretty quiet day around northern Michigan weather-wise. Some folks did see a little more sunshine today, which was great, but I think we're all thinking about our next snow system, which will be here before we know it. Right, Joe?
Yeah, and that rolls in, it looks like, tomorrow afternoon and evening. Not a big one. This isn't a monster storm coming in. I'll clarify that, but it's going to be messy, definitely tomorrow evening and tomorrow night, Maya. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that. We'll take a look at kind of the timing when this gets in here and how much snow we expect. And then next week, we're heading into President's Day next Monday. It looks kind of chilly, pretty cold. So we'll look at that too a little later.
All right. Thank you, Joe. And our top story tonight is actually an update on a story that we first shared with you back in 2022. But a call to action was shared today with Benzie County Commissioners at their board meeting this afternoon. Take a listen.
You have an opportunity to do something positive in response to a tragedy and alleged shameful conduct of Benzie County officers by showing leadership in this moment. The women of this county deserve better than what happened here in February of 2022.
Benzie County and 4 of its sheriff's deputies are named in a federal complaint. The family of a woman who was murdered by Jeffrey Stratton back in 2022 wanted answers as to why their loved one's death was not prevented. So in their legal counsel's deep dive into public records, the team came across something that they say is even more concerning. Our Allie Baxter spoke to the attorney representing the family and has the full story for you.
Public records request revealed express bias and mistreatment of women and girls in Benzie County.
Baylor Bell is the attorney representing Linda Henry's family. Linda was tragically killed in 2022 by her neighbor, Jeffrey Stratton. He was later deemed criminally insane.
Stratton had previous encounters with law enforcement. And in looking into that, reviewing the responses, the reports, we could continue to piece together how there were so many warning signs, so many prior instances that should have prevented Miss Henry's murder.
In seeking out evidence of these warning signs, the legal team found what they say is something worse, a pattern. According to the complaint, for nearly 2 years, 10 calls were made to dispatch from multiple women and girls asking for police intervention because of Stratton's threatening behavior towards them. After responding to a situation where Stratton threatened a woman with his rifle, 2 deputies had this conversation over computer-aided dispatch, or CAD.
Tisk tisk, the Women's Resource Center is going to complain again. Suck it, women, eat a bag of nom nom nom.
Were you guys shocked when you received these public records back and saw that these were the conversations taking place?
Absolutely. The fact that this was expressed openly in a public channel without any fear of reprisal, and that at least one of the deputies involved was subsequently promoted. It was eye-opening, to say the least.
The complaint also describes an incident where a female National Park Service ranger was allegedly threatened by a man in a ski mask in her driveway. Deputies learned the man in the mask was a former sheriff's office deputy and current officer in another department in the county. The complaint says they told the ranger there was nothing they could do to help her. Later saying over CAD, "Tell Ranger, redacted, that Hutch was just messing around," smiley face.
Our relationship with our partners in the 4-county region is critical to survivors receiving the services that they want. So if a survivor wants to pursue justice, then they can do that.
Juliette Schultz is the director of the Women's Resource Center that serves Benzie County. She told us she can't comment on the pending litigation, but emphasized there's a bridge between the WRC and law enforcement for survivors.
What we've uncovered thus far has just been based on public records requests that we knew or found out enough about to request. This is without the aid of discovery. So what else is out there, we don't know at this time.
And Allie did reach out to Benzie County Administrator Katie Zeitz today. Her response is on your screen right now. She said, quote, "We cannot comment on pending litigation, but the county does intend on defending this case vigorously." Now, Bell says that the hope of Linda Henry's family is that there is some serious change to make sure something like this doesn't happen to any woman ever again. Our next story takes us to Charlevoix County, where Lake Charlevoix EMS Authority is making a bit of an unusual investment. $6,200 going towards self-defense training and body cameras. Now, our Daniel Zivian spoke with the EMS director to learn why this is necessary.
But I think most people think when they call an ambulance, the guys just show up, they take care of them, everybody loves them. That's not always the case.
Silva says there were an unprecedented 3 assaults on Lake Charlevoix EMTs last year, all of them during drug-related calls.
They'll not be responsive, and we'll Narcan them. And then they come back, and they don't always come back friendly. They come back, violent, or, because they don't really realize sometimes even what's going on themselves. One of our EMTs was punched in the nose, knocked out. The other was tossed out in front of traffic.
The third was assaulted in the ambulance and then hospitalized, now unable to continue working as a medic. Austin Kleiber was convicted for that crime just last week. Going forward, the EMTs will train with the sheriff in close quarters combat and de-escalation.
And you can tell that we're fairly close to the patient. My knees almost touch the cot, and we're within inches of each other.
With a 50% match from the Grand Traverse Band's community grant, the authority is also buying body cameras, either from KSAD or Axon. Silva says they will not only document any incidents, they'll also serve as a training tool for quality assurance.
If somebody calls in and says, my medic was really mean to me, well, we would have a body cam of that. We'd know if that was true or not, right? So it's kind of there to protect the staff and the public.
In Charlevoix County, Daniel Zivian, UpNorthLive News.
And Danny is joining us live now for more on this story. Danny, thanks so much for joining us on Unscripted tonight. Good to see you.
Hi, Maya. Nice to see you.
So I want to start off with this. So in your introduction for this story, we called this an unusual investment. So I'm assuming that it's not super common for other EMS authorities to have body cameras.
Certainly not up here. One thing that Jesse told me was, he wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot more of this sort of activity happening downstate, just because it's busier down there, and up here it's very rural. And he considered the fact that there were 3 assaults last year unprecedented. So we didn't really talk about downstate. There may very well be a lot of units already, hip to the idea of having body cams. As far as he knows, this is a pretty novel approach. And I think calling it an unusual investment is fair, even in just the public perception sense, because most people think of body cams and that sort of self-defense training as being necessary for law enforcement for all sorts of reasons, whether for the benefit of law enforcement or for the benefit of public accountability. So to just hear about, especially up here, body cams on the ambulance drivers, well, what on earth is that all about? And that's kind of what spurred us into doing this particular story.
And so in the story, you mentioned those 3 assaults that have happened in the past year. The one assault where someone was actually facing some charges, obviously they didn't have body cameras yet. So how were they able to determine that it was this man who assaulted an EMS person without any sort of proof, without cameras?
Well, of course, there were at least 2 people involved. The victim was in the back of the ambulance, so at the very least, there was someone else driving. And that person, now I'm not familiar with the court documents, but because I only learned about the case doing this story from Jesse, the director. But there was witness testimony. At the end of the day, it's pretty easy to know exactly who it was, just from the fact that, the calls are logged, where they went is logged. There's a lot of details that you already sort of know that can lead up to that. Where the body cam can come in is if the testimony really comes into question. If there's really 2, as opposed to, a bit more of an obvious beat 'em up scenario. If you have a situation where there's conflicting testimony, kind of what Jesse was alluding to towards the end, although he used it in a more benign context. If a customer complains and it's a little bit more nebulous, well, the camera can shed a little bit more light on that nuance. Of course, in the case of these assaults, the evidence is on the victim's face and body. It's, it's a bit more brutal. I was not told what the specific injury was in the case that ended up in a conviction. Jesse wanted to protect that EMT's privacy, but it was serious enough that EMT can no longer work for the unit.
Right. So in that situation, and in most situations, I'm sure, like you mentioned, there are there's other evidence that could potentially convict a person of doing something like this. So just by having these body cameras, it's kind of just an extra like security measure just in case, right?
Yeah, if you really want to know for what I think for this particular case, I'm guessing if there were a body cam, the only thing that might have changed would have just been easier to establish intent. If that was something that it was relevant to whether or not this person, the jury would convict. A body camera would probably have a better chance of showing, what the intention was, as opposed to just the physical traces of what what was left in the aftermath.
So do you know, will all EMTs with the Lake Charlevoix EMS Authority be required to wear body cameras now, or is it a choice?
My understanding is that it'll just be policy. I suppose it could end up being a choice. Of course, it's very early stages, though. They haven't actually purchased the body cams. As I said, they're looking at two different brands. One of them, Axon, I believe, is considered, Jesse described it as popular with other law enforcement. And he said he was consulting not only with Sheriff Vondra, but also with Emmett County about that. So, yeah.
Do they have an idea of when they could actually get these cameras?
No idea on that yet. They only just received the grant money a couple of weeks ago. And I think they're prioritizing the self-defense aspect of it first and foremost. I think one thing that tipped us into this story was seeing body cams, but that's because we didn't have the context that it was actually, a lot of this was really about the self-defense aspect because of those very real experiences. And those grants came from the Grand Traverse Band of, I want to say, Ottawa and Chippewa Indians is the full name. These grants are actually rather interesting. It's the 2% allocations from all of the gaming revenue. There were some court cases and laws a while back said, all right, there will be a lot of money to be made in casinos. However, some of that money has to go back into the community. And Jesse saw this as a good opportunity, again, reeling from those 3 incidents last year.
Sure. And once the Lake Charlevoix EMS Authority does get personal defense training and these body cameras, it makes you wonder, will other departments kind of learn from that and follow suit?
That's quite possible. And I haven't asked myself of other departments if they've had these incidents. But again, we're looking at a very low frequency here of this happening. So there might be a couple that already have them. There might be absolutely nothing. It could be a trend. Actually, the trend that Jesse was more worried about, I think this was a long time coming as far as Northern Michigan is concerned. He was worried about whether EMTs in the future would have to wear vests. Have to break out the Kevlar. Again, I think he's probably paying a lot of attention to, downstate things, urban area things, and just sort of projecting 5, 10, 15 years into the future. It's unclear if that's an immediate need, but that was something he's concerned about.
Sure. Anything else that you want to mention about your story that we haven't talked about yet?
Well, gosh, I think we covered the grants. It was very nice of Jesse to open up the ambulance. That was not the exact ambulance that the incident took place, but that is the sister ambulance, which is to say it's basically the same thing.
Same
so again,
size
you saw
and
that
everything.
shot of just, when we talk about close quarters, we mean really close quarters. You're sitting there as the EMT caring for someone, trying to revive this person, after an overdose. Again, these were all drug-related calls. And you are right there, and it's a vulnerable position, knowing that this is something that could happen more and more.
Yeah, I think that shot you got really put things into perspective because I had no idea how close these EMTs actually are to these patients. And again, you never really know what is going on. So, Danny, thanks so much for joining us on Unscripted. Now, this story is related to our question of the day. So let's take a look at that right now. The question today is, do you think that all first responders should wear body cameras? Scan the QR code on your screen right now to vote. We will take a look at those live results and some of your comments a little later on toward the end of the show. But let's take a quick commercial break. Joe mentioned we do have a system on the way. It'll be here sometime tomorrow. You have much more detail on that coming up next.
I'm Jada Johnson from Big Boys TV, and the Fish and Game Report is sponsored by Johnson's Propane.
The sun has set on another winter day here in northern Michigan, and that means the temperatures are dropping, and it looks like they're going to continue to drop even lower tonight. How cold could it get, Joe?
Well, in some areas, we're looking at maybe 5, 6, 7 below zero tonight. So, anytime there's a negative symbol in front of the number.
Not fun.
No. Even where we live, Maya, in the Traverse City area, sometimes a little warmer than other spots. But even there, I think, 0.5 above tonight. So, bit of a chilly one. And look at all that. That's Long Lake. That's near Traverse City. We have a bunch of Long Lakes, but this is the one in Grand Traverse County. And you can see just all the snow over the lake. It looks like February. Kind of our UpNorthLive Skyview drone going up above the trees here. And actually a little snow coming down earlier today here too. We had a little bit of lake effect snow in some spots there. Kind of an active pattern around the country. Let's start with kind of the national view. There it is. We've laid down the watches and warnings. It's all those different colors. We have one system down in the deep south with areas from Mississippi, Alabama, into around Atlanta, where there are flood watches in effect in Georgia. And then in the colder area north of that, up into Virginia, West Virginia, we have snow, including around Washington, D.C. tonight, and Maryland. That producing a messy scenario there. And then further west, snow just starting to get going now in Nebraska, Iowa, and parts of Missouri. The pink areas are where we have winter storm warnings, purple, winter weather advisories. And that includes our area here in northern Michigan as that storm system starts to organize to the west of us. So we have a winter storm watch near Lake Huron from Alpena south, including Ossining, Harrisville, Tawas City. Heavy snow potentially here Wednesday afternoon, tomorrow night, more likely into Thursday, maybe a little bit of lake effect with kind of an east wind off the lake. And then down here in purple, we have a winter weather advisory. Could see some heavier snow, perhaps 4 to 7 inches of snow, again, Wednesday afternoon through Thursday morning. Let's take a look at what this looks like across the region. Not much tonight, a few flurry or two. There's tomorrow morning. Now, if you're heading into work tomorrow, no issues. Quiet. Work and school. It's going to take until the afternoon for the snow to get here. And it'll take a while. If you're up around Sault Ste. Marie, Newberry, you might not see this until late in the day. But snow arrives. There it is. Overnight Wednesday night, and then that comes to an end. And then Thursday, we'll get some snow behind this Thursday afternoon and evening. So here's the look around the state. On the south, much of Michigan getting snow. The numbers are a bit less than we had yesterday. We were looking at maybe a foot downstate. Projections are a little lower there. And back home now, here is a little more closer look, starting tomorrow morning, even by the end of the day tomorrow. So when the sun goes down tomorrow, this is all we're looking at, 1 inch or so. But there will be more snow tomorrow night after dark into early Thursday. So when all is said and done, we're looking at 3 to 4 inches of snow. Locally, there could be pockets of 6, 7 inches in a few spots. And there's the extended forecast through early next week. Quiet Thursday, snow showers Thursday, but Valentine's Day looks Friday, low and mid 20s, or looks quiet. And then if I could speak.
Valentine's Day looks Friday.
It does happen to be on Friday. I think I'm right about that.
You're not wrong there.
I need another cup of coffee. And then some snow on Saturday, cold next week.
All right. Thanks so much, Joe. We'll give you a break now, and we're going to take a break too, but we'll check in with Sports Director Harrison Beebe in just a few minutes. It is that time of the night where we get to talk some sports with the one and only Harrison Beebe, who's joining us live now from the Content Center. Harrison, what's going on in the sports world today?
Maya, we recently caught up with a female wrestler from Onekama. She wrestles for the Manistee Co-op, but she goes to school in Onekama. Her name's Ava Pike, and pretty cool story for her. She's going to compete at the collegiate level. Recently had her national signing day ceremony to compete at Elma College, which is in the central part of the state. But before she gets to college, she's got some business to attend to. She's been at Ford Field 2 times now for the individual state tournaments. Now that they've expanded the girls tournaments, she's hoping to make it 3. She's got individual regionals this weekend. But before that, we talked with her in a special interview. How long did you know that you wanted to not only pursue the stream of wrestling through high school, but then into the collegiate level?
I met the coaches at Alma through camps that they had been hosting, and I kind of was like, this is an option that I have, and it's something that I'd really like to keep doing because I've been wrestling my whole life, and it really wasn't something I was ready to give up.
It sounds like that the MHSA expansion and inclusion of the women's tournaments now has been a big motivating factor for you.
This year is our first year having districts, and so just like the difference from my freshman year to my senior year and watching how much the sport has changed and just that time is like really amazing. It's such a higher level compared to them, and it's amazing, and it just makes me always want to be better.
And you have been to Ford Field twice?
Yeah.
So what did that mean to you?
I think it's a very empowering feeling knowing that we're wrestling on the same level, and it's finally getting recognized. It's such a surreal feeling being down there on the field.
So yeah, Maya, this is all, going with, it's been several years in the making now, but really expanding that wrestling field to include girls in the competitions. They have individual competitions. The goal down the road is to have team competitions for girls throughout the state of Michigan. They're not there yet, but as those programs keep growing, with the help of Ava and some other role models who are helping, blazing the trail here, hopefully we expand those tournaments even more and allow girls wrestling to grow even more.
Yes, that is the goal, Harrison. Thanks so much for sharing her story with us and for joining us for sports on Unscripted. Let's take one more quick break. We'll be right back in just a few minutes.
Salon services are furnished by Epiphany Advanced Academy in East Acme.
Do you think that all first responders should wear body cameras? Pretty split. 49% say yes, 51% say no. Looking at our Facebook page, Melissa says sad, but probably for their own protection. Cindy says, not if I was a victim needing help. And echoing off of that, Tommy says this would be an invasion of privacy of those who are trying to help. No, thank you. And Stephanie says yes to protect them from liability. More comments on our Facebook page, UpNorthLive.com. That's where you can join the conversation. But that'll do it tonight for Unscripted at 6:30. We'll see you back here at 11 o'clock.